and all of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Make sure you're taking notes.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
So, but it's like you're faster than me, but that's fine. I can
Oh. Okay.
go back to the class.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Please let me know if I'm moving too fast. I'll slow down. Yeah. I'll move a little more slow. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the same content into the file, and then I'm going to save the file, and I'm going to exit out of the file. So I like cars. So now I'm going to save the file. So to get out of insert mode, remember, escape, hit your escape key on the top left, and then shift, colon, and then to save and quit, W is basically to save, and then Q is to exit out of your file. Q is to quit, is to exit out of your file. So WQ and then enter. So now I'll go back into my file, and now you can see the content is still there. So okay, so do you all have your command line open?
Yep, following.
Okay. Can you all give this a try? And if anyone is having issues, you can share your screen, and we can assist you and walk you through. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Question. Oh, never mind. Okay, well, yeah, question. So, so VI is the, in a sense, default editor for files for Linux.
Yeah, that's the default editor. There are also other ways to edit a file
I like
within Linux. There are other ways to edit a file, but VI is the main file editor that is used.
Okay, so if
there are other ways to edit your file. I'll send those to you as well. Instead of VI, they have another form that is called Nano. So you can nano a file, which will put you in a different file mode. But the file mode that I use is VI. So when you're in an interview and they ask you what file editor do you use, you tell them VI.
Okay. Now, I mean, I like Vim as well. Is it, you have to download and install, or
yeah. Vim is the same thing as VI. The same exact thing as VI. The only difference is that Vim actually the way the content is displayed looks a little different. Everything is placed the same, but the only difference is depending on the command line that you're using. Let's say you're using like PuTTY or so, or your display will have colors in it.
Okay. Yeah.
Vim will actually format, not really format, but it'll structure the content in your file a certain way so that you'll be able to kind of read it almost a little better. Read the content in the file a little better.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. So are you all giving it a try on your end? Anyone having any issues? So I'll go ahead and I'll show it one last time. Okay, so let me remove data. I'll actually use rm-rf to remove data. And I'll create another file. I'll call this file cars. List it out, and I'll go inside of cars, VI cars, and I'll place contents within this file. So the contents I'll place in this file, in order to place contents in the file, you have to hit the letter I to get into insert mode. Insert mode would then allow you to place whatever you like to put in it. So I'll put Lambo, I'll put Honda, I'll put Yoda, I'll put Lexus. Okay, so now to save the file, to save and quit out of the file, you first need to hit the escape key at the top left, escape, and then shift colon, right, quit. So W means save, and then Q means to exit. So save and exit. So W means write. So you want to write the content and then quit. So save and exit, save and quit, and then hit enter. So now I'll go back into my file, which is called cars, and now my content is still there. So let's say I wanted to delete, and say I'll delete this here. Let's say I didn't want this content here that's called Honda. I'll delete this here, and then I'll save. So first escape, shift, colon, and then Q. Okay, so it's displaying for me to override. So I'll hit escape again, shift, colon, and bang, which means to forcefully save, because I made changes to the file. Hit enter. So if I go back into my file, if I go back into my file, okay, so what I did was I quit out of the file without saving what I did. So I did Q instead of WQ. So W is to save. I didn't use that flag, so that's why you're still seeing Honda. So now let's give that another try. Let's delete Honda and escape, colon, WQ, save and quit. Now let's clear, and let's go back into the file, and now you see that Honda is gone. But if I don't make any changes to it, if I don't make any changes to this file, and I just do escape, colon, Q, and then enter, then it will allow me just to leave the file without using the bang. Because once you make changes to the file, then you'll have to apply the bang to the file, to the argument. Okay. So any questions? Were you all able to give that a try on your end?
Yep.
Who is that?
So.
Okay. Anyone else?
Who was the one that was having issues earlier? Does everyone want to? So
yeah, I believe that was Rita. How are things looking on your end, Rita? Do you have the how are things looking on your end?
I understand what you're saying right now, but I'll have to go back again to try to do it on my computer. I told you I'm gonna get my extra computer so I can be able to.
Okay. Okay. Yep. That's correct. Okay.
So I'm just following what you're teaching. I'm following.
Okay. Okay. What about you, Abe and Ben?
I got it.
Sorry, my internet is acting weird. It's the VM's still booting up to get to the.
Oh, it's still booting up. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Did you have to create your new system?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you built it from scratch. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what I'll do is, okay. So for next class, keep one system always running, And when it comes to practicing just rebuilding your system, just build a new one and just delete the new one, but just keep one always running, just for, not always running, but once the class is over, just power it off and don't delete it. But if you want to delete it, just try and rebuild it maybe an hour or so before the class starts.
Okay.
But does it is what I'm teaching, does that make sense? Am I throwing you off?
Yeah, no, I'm following somewhat. I just want to be able to practice it. It just finished. So.
Oh, it did. Okay.
But I can go over it again. You don't have to wait up for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now we've learned how to save and quit out of a file. We've learned VI, the VI editor VI. The file editor VI. We've learned to save and quit, which is first you need to get out of insert mode. So to get out of insert mode, you hit escape. To get into insert mode, you hit letter I, insert, to get into insert mode. To get out of insert mode, you hit escape, and to save is W, and to quit is Q. So WQ is to actually save the content and quit out of the file. If you don't want to save with the changes that you made, so let's say you hop into a file and you made a mistake and you can't tell where you made the mistake at, you can just quit out of the file, which is just :Q. And most likely it will be followed by the bang. Bang is the exclamation mark. So in Linux terms, you don't say exclamation mark, you say bang. Okay, so now.
Sorry, are you saying bank like with the
B-A? Bang. B-A-N-G.
Oh, bang. Okay, cool.
Yeah, bang. B-A-N-G. Okay, so now let's say you want to display the contents inside of a file, but you don't want to get into the VI editing mode. So let's say you just want to see, hey, what is inside of this file? Like, you just want to see what is inside of this file. And to see what is inside of a file, all you have to do is, the command is called cat, C-A-T. C-A-T is to display content inside of a file. So we use our command cat, and what do we want to display? We want to display the content that is where inside of a file called cars. So you want to cat cars. Cat means to display contents inside of a file. So instead of using VI to get into the file, to actually start making changes, if you don't want to actually get into the file, you just want to just, hey, what is in it? So cat cars, and I hit enter. So now it's showing me that I have Lambo, Toyota, and Lexus. So it's basically, what it's doing is displaying the contents inside of the file. That's all that it's doing, displaying the content inside of a file. So to get into the file, remember, it's VI cars. VI cars will get you inside of the file. So I want to get into insert mode, right? Insert mode I. To get into insert mode, and I'll add a bunch of content. And then I'll save the file. Remember, escape. First, you have to escape to get out of insert mode. Shift, : right, quit, WQ, and then enter. So now LL to list out what is in my directory, so cars. So now I want to display what is inside of cars. So display is cat cars, and then enter. So now it's showing me the other content that I also placed in there. So to display the content in the file is cat cars. Cat is to display. So if we go to our man pages, MAN cat. Remember, cat is a command. So every command has a manual page. So cat. So the name cat is, okay, so I'm not sure what that, concatenate files and prints on the standard output. So it's basically just displaying. And there's actually options flags that you can use against your command. You see -A is to show all, -B is to number, is actually to number non-empty output line. -E equivalence, -S, -T. There's so many different flags that you can add to cat. So to add a flag to a command, it will just be cat and then space -V. That's how you'll add a flag to your command. And then followed by the file. So any questions on cat? You got a question, Abe?
No, actually. I was just thinking now about how useful the main page is.
Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you now is how to basically search the content of a file. So let's say you hop into a large file, and this file has maybe like 1,000 lines within this file. There's so many lines within this file, and you're trying to basically look for keywords within that file. Let's say there's a particular word you're looking for inside of that file. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just locate a file within my system that I know has large content, because I don't want to, just start typing a whole bunch of words on the screen. So I'm going to go to the logs directory. So the logs are basically anything that is done on your system. Any issues that you have on your system, it's always logged. As in, there's always a location where you can go to look at a particular file that will basically transfer. Let's say your system is running slow. You're noticing your system is running slow. One of the locations to check is your log files. Your log files will, at times, once you're searching the files within the logs, you'll be able to see certain errors or warnings that are related to why your system is running slow. I don't want to confuse you too much, but let's go right into our logs directory. Our logs directory is located in cd/var log. I'll hit enter, and I'll do ls. All I'm doing is I'm going to hop into a file, vi, go into a file, and I'm going to show you how to search content inside of a file. So all I'm doing is just locating a large file. That's all I'm doing. Okay, so ll. So I'm going to go into this file called messages. So vi messages. So what it's going to do is it's going to display a whole bunch of content. Okay, so that file is actually owned by root. So that's why it's not allowing me to see the content in that file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of this. I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log in as root. So remember your root password that you saved. I'm going to go back into var log, and I'm going to vi. And remember, if I'm moving too fast, please let me know. So I'm going to vi a large file called messages. Okay, so you see, this is a pretty large file, right? It has a whole lot of, actually, I'm going to use a different file. Okay, so I'm actually going to go into this file instead. It's called anaconda-ks.cfg. So I'm going to vi into this file called anaconda. So, and I'm not sure if I showed you all this, but you see how the word anaconda-k is kind of a long file that you need to type out. So if you want, a quicker way to type out a file is just to hit your tab key. So once, let's say you type the first maybe 3 letters or so, A-N-A, and then you hit your tab key where it says tab, you hit that tab key, is actually going to display the rest of the content for you. So you don't have to type it out completely. So I'm going to VI this file. Okay, so now you have a large file here, has a whole lot of content. Don't worry about what the content is in this file. Let's say you were looking for a word in this file called root. You know, if you were to just use your naked eye to search through the file just with your eyes, it's going to take a long time and it might just give you a headache. So to actually search for the contents, any content, you'll make sure that you're first in escape mode. You don't want to be in insert mode if you're searching for content in a file. So remember, to get into insert mode, you hit the letter I. So now I'm in insert mode, I can actually start typing stuff in here. But you know, there's already stuff in here you don't want to make any changes to. So you want to stay out of insert mode. So I'm going to hit escape to take me out of insert mode. So now to search content in a file, you use your slash. You see at the bottom left, I just typed slash, just like that. It's actually not displaying in the file. It's only being displayed on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. That's all it's doing. It's actually not being displayed in the file. It's being displayed only on the bottom left-hand of your screen. So you use slash followed by the word you are looking for. So it's make sure you're in escape mode, and then you use, I believe that is / followed by the word that you're looking for. So any word that you're looking for inside of this file. So let's say I'm looking for a word called root, R-O-O-T, right? So I'm looking for a word root, and I hit enter after that, enter. So now you'll see my cursor actually took me to the first word called root. You see right there? It took me to the first word that is called root in this whole file. It'll actually read it from the left side. So R-O-O-T. And let's say I wanted to search for other content in this file that is, okay, you have a question, Ave?
Yeah, you said that in order for us to use to search the file, we're supposed to be in the escape mode instead of the insert mode. But the file we created previously, I was wondering how you're still able to type the / root if you already got it as escape, because it kind of like takes us back to the command line. I mean, take me back to the command line. So I was wondering how you type that one.
Okay, so was you saying that when I typed root, it looked like it's actually displayed in the file?
Yes, but given
okay, so like you see at the bottom left where it says /root.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's actually not inside of the file. So if I hit escape again and I just type, let's say colon, right, to quit out of the file, see what will happen. So I'll do shift : so now /root is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? It's actually, I'm actually, when I type /root, I'm not actually in the file. It's actually, since you're in escape mode, whatever content you type in while you're in escape mode
mm-hmm.
will not make any changes within the file. So you can only, well, you know what, I take that back. When you're searching for content in a file or saving a file, or actually like if there are any other commands that you want to execute to apply to the file, you do that in escape mode. So it's actually not in. So if I scroll down, you see it's the file is still the same. It's not. I haven't made any changes to it. So if I want to search for content in the file, you hit escape, and then you do slash. And let's say I want to look for a word called crash, right? Crash. I actually didn't type it inside of the file. It's only you're typing it within a mode, if you understand what I'm saying.
I got it. While you were explaining, I kind of did an example of mine. I realized that when I hit the escape, the cursor was at the top of the file, in my case. So, and the moment I hit the forward slash, it went down to the delete button. So,
hey, are you talking from your computer?
Yes.
I'm having a little trouble hearing. You're kind of like a little faded. Are you able to call in from your phone?
Yeah, I'm just gonna call it, okay?
Or if you're able to speak a little closer to your mic, to your computer.
I was saying that I got it that while you were explaining that, I did my little correction. So what I got confused with was after you hit the escape button, I figured you could just get out of the. I thought you could get out.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't look at the cursor. What cursor was, and I realized that in between hitting the escape button at colon WQ, you get a chance to type.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So let's say I wanted to search for a word in this file called crash, right? So I'll be in escape mode. I'll do slash, right, and then crash, right, and I'll hit enter. So now it took me to the first word in the file called crash. You understand? So now let's say now I've searched for that file, but now I want to actually get into insert mode to change the content in this file. So I'm currently in escape mode. To get into insert mode to change the content in the file, you just hit I. So I now puts you into insert mode. So now I can, I'll just type something and delete it. So I'll type, like this. Now it allows me to type. So then I'll just delete what I just did, just like that. And if you want to continue searching, just hit escape, and then slash, and then I'll go back to root, right? And I'll hit enter. So now it actually took me to the next line of the file called root. Okay. So there are multiple words in this file called root. If you want to locate all of them, okay, so now look, I'll type ROT. If you want to locate all of them, so now it took me to the next one. If you want to locate all of them, while you're still while you're still under the word root, all you do is hit the letter N. N as in Nancy. N. N means next. So N, the letter N, will take me to the next word in the file called root. So N means next, so the next word. So if I hit N again, it'll take me to the next one. So there's only two words in this file called root. You see it take me back and forth because I keep hitting the letter N. N as in Nancy. So N, whilst you're still searching for that particular word that you just searched for, once you hit N, it will take you to the next one. You understand? So let's say I was looking for a word called crash, right? So I do slash crash, and I hit enter. So now it took me to this first word called crash. If I hit the letter N, it should take me to the next one. So I hit N, so now it's saying search, hit the bottom, continue at top. So it's basically saying that there's no other content in this word called crash. So if I keep hitting N, it's not taking me anywhere. So that's the only word in this file called crash. So let's say I want to search for something called boot, B-O-O-T. If I hit enter, it takes me right here. You see my cursor went to boot, And if I hit N, it'll take me to the next one. See right here at the bottom left, boot. If I hit N again, then it'll took me right to the top. You see the top where my cursor is blinking? That's another word called boot. If I hit N again, it takes me to the next one. See, it says first boot. If I hit N again, it takes me to this one, boot, right here. So the next one is called right here. So that's how to search the contents that is in a file. Understand? So any questions here? So all good here? So any questions, please let me know. I'm about to show you the next way to actually search contents of a file using a command called grep, G-R-E-P. So I'm going to exit out of this file. I'm actually not going to save it. I'm just going to quit out of it. So the escape :Q. Okay, so it wants me to override escape :Q, bang, just like that. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, instead of going into VI mode to search for the contents in the file, there's a way to actually search for the contents of the file without having to actually go into the file editor mode using a command called grep. So what you're going to do is so remember, to display the contents of a file. So display the contents of a file. Do you remember how to do that? To display the contents of a file.
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah. So to get into the file editor mode, you use VI. But just to display the contents of a file, remember you use cat.
Oh, cat. Yeah.
Cat, yeah, that was just display. That was just, hey, what is inside of this file? So cat. So I'm going to do cat anaconda ks.cfg, right? So cat anaconda. So what it's going to do is it's going to display what's in that file. So what it did was it's showing me what's in that file, but I'm not inside of the file, right? So I mean, you can hit the up arrow key to use the last command you just typed. So cat is going to display all of the content that's in that file. But what if I don't want all of the content to be displayed? I only want to see just a particular set of items, or let's say I'm just looking for a word called boot, or a word called root, or a word, any word in the file, in this file. So the way this will be done is you use cat anaconda. So what I want to do is I want to cat the file, right? I want to cat anaconda -ks.cfg. And what I want to do is I want to grab what I'm looking for. So what is this command is doing, what you're seeing currently on my screen is that I want to display everything. But now the parameter that I'm going to add to it is pipe space grep, pipe grep. So pipe on your keyboard is right above the your enter key. So it's shift and then what is it? The backslash is right above is in the same section where your backslash is. So it'll be pipe. That's called pipe. I want to make sure everyone can see that. So it's shift, and it should be right above the enter key, kind of towards the middle right hand of your keyboard. So it's just a straight line going up and down. Pipe. So pipe grep. So what I'm doing in this command currently is, so right now what this command is just going to display, this command here, remember, it just displays what is inside of the file. But what I want to do is I want to grab something inside of the file. So pipe grep is to grab. I want to only grab, it's like you'll tell yourself, hey, this file is huge. It's a huge file, but I know that what I'm looking for has the word root inside of it, or has the word crash inside of it. So it's going to grab, so cats display the content, but grab followed by pipe grep, followed by what you want to grab out of that file. So let's say I only want to grab root. You understand? So cat the file, pipe grep, which means to grab only this particular set of information that's inside of the file, right? And then I hit enter. So what it did was it actually pulled the line that had the word root inside of it. You see, there's basically two lines within that Anaconda file that had the word root. So you see, it actually highlighted the word root for me. So let's say I wanted just to see what is the words root, and I didn't want to see the entire file. So it will be cat the file. Pipe means that is basically a break within the command, and then I'm going to grab only the content that I need. So cat anaconda.cfg pipe grep root, right? So it only pulled the two lines called root. So let's say I wanted to only pull the content called crash, right? So to pull the content called crash that is inside this file. So anything that you can think of. So it will be cat anaconda.cfg pipe space grep to grab and whatever you're looking for. So let's say I'm looking for boot, B-O-O-T, right? And I hit enter. So now it is basically displayed only the lines inside of the file that have the word boot inside of it. Did I confuse any of you?
Nope, that comes in handy a lot. That's pretty good.
Just wanted to sink in. So anything that you can think of, basically. So it'll be cats. I can go to another file. So let me locate another file within this system. So actually, let me go to, okay, let me actually go to my home directory, baddy, right? And remember, we had a file in there called cars, right? So to display the content in the file, remember, to display the content in the file is cat. So what I want to do, I want to cat cars, right? So display the content in the file is cat. So cat cars, right? So let's say I only wanted to display the word test on the screen. Can someone tell me how that'll be done? Anyone but Nonso? I know you probably know how to. But anyone else can show me how would I display only the word test on my screen?
Cat file, cat cars. Test.
Test. Yep. So cat's your file, and then I'm going to grab what? Only test. So you see, it only showed me the word test. Right? But okay, so let's say I ran this command here. Cat cars pipe grep the letter T. So what do you think it will display?
every line that has a T in it.
Yep, that's correct. So just like that. So it has Toyota and test. Those are the lines in the file that have the letter T in it. So it'll be cat, cars, pipe, grep, the letter T. So we're all good there. I'm sure you all have some questions. Any questions? Okay. So now what I'm going to do, we have no questions. I'm going to start confusing you guys a little bit, but I'm going to move pretty slow when I show you this. So I'm going to edit my file called cars, right? I'm going to go inside the file called cars. So now I'm not inside of insert mode. I'm only inside of escape mode. So there's so many different things that you can do inside of the file editor mode to make things a little easier for you. You understand? So let's say somebody told you, hey, I need you to go inside of a file and I need you to copy the word fish, not copy the word fish, but I want the word fish. I want 10 lines of the word fish inside of this file. There's with the VI editor, I believe there's hundreds of different things that you can do inside of here. But what I'm going to do is just show you just a few of them. There's a couple things you can do to make things a little easier for you, but I would definitely recommend for you all to do some research on the different things you can do within VI editor. It'll literally just, like kind of like blow you away. So, all right. So this line fish, you got a ticket when you came into work and they said, I need you to display or I need to have 10 lines of the word fish inside of this file. So what you can do is, you can take the hard way and, just type fish, type it again. Let's say they told you to do it 100 times. It will take you forever. You just keep typing, and it'll just, so let me delete all of that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you how to copy a line while inside of VI editor and then paste it. You understand? So right now my cursor is under the line fish. So to copy, but make sure you're not in insert mode, because if you're in insert mode, look, you can still type stuff, right? But make sure that you're not in insert mode. So to make sure that you're not in insert mode, you look at the bottom left, you hit escape, and that insert mode is gone. So to copy a line, right now I'm currently under the line fish. So to copy this line you're going to hit the letter Y on your keyboard twice. So Y, you hit it twice. You don't see anything. Nothing is going to display. You don't see anything. Y means yank, yank, yank. So you're yanking that line. You just yank the line. And then if you hit the letter P means to paste. So P, so now you see you just pasted fish. So Y is to yank. So Y is yank. So yank, yank, followed by the letter P is to paste. So if I hit the letter P again, it's going to paste another fish, right? Because it's still, it's almost like you're highlighting, right-click copy, and then you paste it inside of the Word document. You understand? So that's all that's being done. So let's say I wanted to copy the line right here, Lexus, right? This line, Lexus. So I'll do the same thing. It's YY. YY is yank, yank, is to basically, you're yanking that line, and then you hit the letter P, is to paste. You understand? So you can paste that line anywhere you want in your file. So there'll be YY. Right now, I'm currently here. So let's say I wanted to paste Lexus all the way down here at the bottom. So you make sure that you do YY underneath the line that you want to yank, and then you go all the way to the bottom, you hit the letter P. So P is now, I've just pasted Lexus now at the bottom of the line. That is a paste. So since the word Lexus is still on my clipboard, as in the next word that I can paste, so I can hit the letter P and paste that word as many times as I want to. So if I want to hit it, paste it 10 times, I'll just paste it 10 times. I'll hit the letter P 10 times. And you only do that while you're in escape mode. So remember, YY, you're not going to be able to see anything. Even when you hit the letter P, you're not going to be able to see that. But the system is recognizing that. So let's say I wanted to copy Lambo. So it'll be YY underneath Lambo, and I'll just hit letter P. Letter P will paste it. And I can continue hitting the letter P to paste as many times as I need to. Any questions? No questions?
None.
Okay, I hope we're all following along.
I don't know if I missed it or not. How do you delete?
Okay, no, I haven't showed delete yet, but that's actually what I'm about to show. So I've only showed how to yank and paste. It's basically copy and paste within the file. So now, that was actually what I was about to show. So now we've learned how to YY. So test right here. So YY, and I'll paste test right here, right in the middle. Paste, just like that. Okay, so now to delete. So to delete a line, all you do is hit the letter D twice on your keyboard underneath the line that you want to delete. So to delete a line, it will be DD. So if you look at Lexus right there, if I do DD, look, it just deleted it, just like that. So if I wanted to delete fish, right here is the letter D. You hit it twice. DD is to delete. DD is to delete. You see this little space this little gap that I have right here? If you want to remove this gap, you just hit the letter DD and it will just delete that gap there. So just like that. And if I wanted to just continue deleting, I just keep hitting the letter D until I get to where I need to be. So you just keep you hit the letter D twice to delete a line. Right? You hit the letter D twice to delete a line. Right? You hit the letter D twice to delete a line. Okay. All right. So now let's say, right, YYP, right? Let's say I had all these lines here, right? And let's say it was about, let's say like 30 lines, right? Okay, so before I show you that, I'm going to show you how to actually number all of your lines. These are just different things that I'm showing you just to make things easier for you. There's so many different things you can do within VI. I know some people that actually have no VI skills at all. They don't actually utilize these skills. They'll actually just type everything out. Sometimes they'll be inside the editor for minutes at a time, when you can actually utilize the different components within VI to make your work easier and quicker. Understand? So now, let's say I want to display, I want to number all of these lines. Like someone tells you, hey, I want you to delete line 7 or line 12 on your file, or even line 100. Like, you're not going to start at the top and start counting down all the way to 100. because you might mess up at 84 and have to start all over. So you'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll take too long. So to display the numbers, it's escape, colon, and the letter N for number. Oh, sorry, it's not N. It's actually colon, set, space, number. Then you hit enter. Yep. So to display the number, it'll be colon, set, number. So if somebody told you to delete line 100, then you'll be able to locate, okay, line 28. Let's say, okay, I need you to delete line number 28. So you get to line 28 and you just hit the letter DD to delete. It actually deleted it. The only reason why you can't really see is because there's so many Lexuses in here, but let me get to here. I'll delete this test here so you can see. So if somebody told you to delete the line 11, you just hit DD, and now it's deleted. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, all right, sorry about that. Okay.
Hey, Ben,
So now let's.
You deleted a specific line? I missed it.
I think you might have your phone and your computer both on audio. So just, can you repeat that again also?
Yeah, my bad. I didn't see how you did that. How did you delete a specific line?
Oh, okay. So let's say someone told you to delete line 12. It'll just be the letter D. Just hit D twice.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. So let's say someone told you to delete Toyota line 8. You just get to line 8 and you hit DD twice, and it deleted Toyota.
What if you were right there? I know I'm jumping. What if you were right there on line 8 and someone wanted you to delete line 1005?
Okay, so to jump to another line, 1 second, let me see. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, so it is, let me get back in escape mode. So what you'll do is you make sure you're in escape mode. So let's say I want to get to line 42. You see line 42 there?
Yeah.
So you hit colon 42. And it'll just take you right to that line. You hit enter, it takes you right to the line.
Okay.
And then you hit DD, and it will actually delete that line. So if it was 1,000, it'll be colon 1,000. There's so many different things you can do. I don't know all of them. I only know a few just to make life easier for myself. I've seen some gurus inside of VI Editor that's done some crazy things. So now let's say I wanted to delete, the last, let's say, the last 5 lines or so below my cursor, right? So let's say I'm right here, I'm at line 6. So let's say I wanted to delete lines 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that's 5 lines. So what you do is you hit the number 5. You hit the number 5. It's not going to show that you hit it. And then you hit DD twice. So what it did is actually it deleted the last 5 lines. Not the last 5 lines at the bottom, but the 5 lines below my cursor. I think since I have so many Lexuses, it's kind of not really allowing you to see, but let me go ahead and delete some. So what I'll do is I'll do 20 DD. So now I'll do 5 DD. So what it's doing is it's deleting the last few lines below my cursor. So if I did 10 DD, now it's deleted the last 10. Or if I did 3 DD, deletes the last 3. You understand?
Yeah, I was just going to mention while you were deleting the file, we have a little message below at the bottom left corner saying how many lines you deleted.
Say that again?
So I was just going to add that while you were deleting the lines, at the left corner, it has a little message to let the user know how many lines were out of the file.
Are you saying where it says like 3 fewer lines?
Yeah, I was just saying that, just so you can, I didn't.
Yeah, yep. That's definitely a good way to reference as well. Yeah. So if I did 4 DB, now it's saying 4 fewer lines. Yeah. Yep.
I have a question.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was thinking. So when you started to think of the numbers, and we had to get to directly to a particular line to delete it. So I was gonna ask, like, could one kind of like do the same function with the grep mode and grep command? Like, say we're going to delete line 42, and I use the cat, whatever the name of the file is, pipe grep, and line 42. Is that doable?
Yeah, there's definitely is a way. There definitely is a way. That's definitely something that you can research, to grep a particular line. You can definitely Google that. If you Google how do you display line of a single line using grep. I haven't had the need to do that, but it's definitely something that you can research, and yeah, we can even make that one of our homeworks. I'm actually going to be giving homework after this class for you to be doing throughout the week. I may even just add that as a bonus question for you all to research. So once we come back next week, we can give that a try on the command line. Okay. All right. So now let's say I wanted to delete. I deleted the word fish on accident. I was like, oops, why did I just delete that? To undo, you just hit the letter U. The letter U will undo your last change. Yeah, and it actually, when you keep hitting undo, it'll actually continue to undo the last few changes that you made on your system. It's almost like in Word document is actually Control Z, which I believe it's Control Z, but this is just Linux. So to undo your changes is the letter U. But I remember Ben Wu or someone asked a question, if you delete a file, can you recover it? You can't recover it on the fly. If you delete a file, you can't recover it on the fly. you'll have to recover it from a backup. Most companies take full system backups of all their systems. If you delete a file on accident, you can actually have it recovered from your, basically, sometimes they'll have a backup team. You just contact them and say, hey, I deleted this file, I need it recovered. And they'll recover the most recent backup. So the letter U will undo your changes. Okay, so now I'm going to show you one last thing within VI. Let's say, okay, actually, let me escape out of this file and let me go to a much larger file so I can show you this. So var log, I'm going to go inside of var log and I'm going to VI into messages. So right now I'm in a large file and it actually has a timestamp in this file of all of the logs that are placed in this file. You see at the top left says August 20th. It's actually August 24th. So right now I'm at the top of the file, I'm the top of the line of the file. Let's say your file has 2,000 lines and you want it to get all the way to the bottom. I mean, you could just hold the bottom key and just hold it all the way until you get to line 2,000, which will take you maybe like an hour. But to get to the bottom is Shift G, the letter G, Shift G. See, now it took me all the way to the bottom of the line. Shift G, Shift G takes you to the bottom of the line. Shift G takes you all the way to the bottom of the line. And if you want to go back up, is just you just hit the letter G twice with no shift. Just the letter G twice with no shift. But to get to the bottom, of the file, Shift G takes you all the way to the bottom of the file. Remember, to get all the way back to the top is GG. Understand? So those are the different VI editing components. So now I'm going to escape out of this file and I'm going to show you how to display content in a large file. You can just cat it. Let's say I just cat messages. That large file I was just in. Let's say I cat messages. What it's going to do is just going to spit all that content on the screen. It's just going to just slap it right on the screen. You see, it's a lot of stuff. It just displayed all that stuff on the screen. You're like, whoa, that's just too much stuff that I just displayed. So cat will display everything inside of a large file. But with this file being large, let's say you wanted to just see the top of that line. You wanted to actually get into the entire line, but you wanted to start off at the top of the file. You want to actually not actually get into VI editing mode, but you wanted to display the content in the file, but you want it only to start at the top, right? So it will be cat messages. Cat messages displays everything, but you want it to actually just start at the top. So to do that, it will be cat messages type more. That's it. So to more a file is basically you're going to start at the top of a file and actually use, so I'm going to more the file. So when I hit enter, it actually started me at the top of the file. So now I'm at the top of the file. You understand? So now what I can do is I can actually use my enter key. If I hit enter, it would actually start to actually go through the file line by line without actually having to go into insert mode. You can use the enter key, which will actually take you line by line. So now to get out of this, you actually just use Control-C to get out of it. But remember, so cat messages will display all of the content in the file. the only time you'll need to use the pipe more option is when you have a large file. Like the file that I had that said cars, you have no need to use pipe more. You can just cat that file because it's only about 4 or 5 lines in there. When you have such a large file, you'll cat to display the contents, pipe more, right? This will allow you to go through the line by line, and you can actually use your space bar to actually speed up the process of locating contents in the file. So it'll move you not line by line. If you want to go line by line, you use your enter key. If you want to jump a page at a time through the file, you use your space bar. So space bar is actually taking me a whole page at a time. So every time I hit my space bar, it will take me up another page. So enter will do line by line while you're in more. While you moored a file, and the space bar will actually display one page at a time. You understand? But let's say you wanted to go up the line, you want to go back up. While you moor a file, it will not allow you to go back up to see the contents above. It will only allow you to go below. So use the enter key to do line by line, and use a space bar to actually allow you to go page by page. So now let's get out of this mode. You just Control C, and remember to clear your screen, you can just do Control L, or you can just type the word clear, which will clear your screen. So now there's another way to actually display the contents of the file, which will also start you off at the top of the file. This one is called pipe less, L-E-S-S. So pipe less. So cat to display the contents, pipe less to also will display the content, but it'll start you off at the top of the line. So when I hit enter, so now I'm at the top of the line, right? I can still use my enter key, the same as more, to go down. I can still use the space bar to jump page by page. But if I wanted to go back up, I'll just use the up arrow key. The up arrow key, while you less a file, will actually allow you to go up. And while you're actually in less mode, if you wanted to go to the end of a file, you remember when we were in the VI editor mode to get to the end of a file? Do you remember how we did that to get to the end of a file while you're in VI editor mode?
Shift G.
Yep, Shift G. So now while you less a file and you want to go all the way to the end, let's say your file is huge and you keep hitting the space bar and you're starting to notice, hey, I'm not getting anywhere. It's still in August 20th. I'm not getting anywhere. If you want to get all the way to the end of the line, you just Shift G will take you to the end. So Shift G, while you're in less mode, will take you to the end of a file. And then GG will also take you back up to a file, just like in VI editor mode. But you cannot change the contents because all you're doing is just displaying the content. Okay. So any questions when it comes to mooring a file and to moor a file and to less a file?
For the sake of practice, during the week when we're practicing, is there any way we can get like a file to work on? Because this file that
that I am displaying is in your, it's on your system as well. So it's located under log.
Oh,
So right here, I'm currently under var log. So the file is called messages, MESSAGES. There are other files here as well. They have something called dmessage. They have other files that you can hop in and, you know, just use the skills that I taught you today to maneuver around. So any say it again?
I said thanks. I just figured personally I need to use it before I know you add questions.
Okay.
So thanks.
Okay. So anyone else have any other questions before we move to the next topic? Please make sure you're taking notes. How is it looking, Ben?
I think I'm following. Yeah, pretty good.
All right. Were you able to get your system up?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's make sure we're taking notes. I'll be able to provide this recording to whoever needs it. But going forward, let's make sure we're taking some really good notes. And I actually sent you all an email. I sent you all an email today before the class. One of them is called Linux Utilities. If you didn't get it, let me know. So it's basic commands, basic Linux commands. It's called Linux Utilities. So I put these together. Most of them I've shown you. Some of them will actually cover throughout the class. But it's called Linux Utilities. It'll show you how to list the content, copying, removing, moving to more a file. There's actually one last command I want to show you. So you can more a file, you can less a file, and another one that you can do is also tail. You can also tail a file. Okay. So what we did was we did less on this file, which will actually allow you to get to the bottom of the file. I believe it's actually better just to use less instead of using more. Because when you more a file, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's better to use less than more, but when you more a file, it does not allow you to go up, and it does not allow you to get to the bottom of the page. It only allows you to go line by line and use the space bar to jump pages. Okay, so now to tail a file, what that's going to do is going to take you directly to the bottom of the file. So to tail a file, messages, forgot the S, is going to take you directly to the bottom. So if you only want to see just the bottom of the file, this tail messages. Tail takes you directly to the bottom, and it will display a few lines of the file. Right now, it's default to view about 10. If you wanted to view, let's say, the last 100 lines of messages, it will be tail minus 100 messages. So now what it did is actually just displayed 100 lines on my screen. No need for you to do that, but let's say if you just wanted to display just 20. So now it just displayed the last 20 lines of a file. So tail will display the end of a file. So that's tail. So let's say you want to display only the top. It will be head. So head messages will display the top of a file. That's to display the top of a file. And the same goes for head. If you want to display only the first 20 lines of head, it'd be 20 minus head minus 20, which will display the first 20 lines of messages. So within the Linux utilities file that I emailed you all, it has all of that in there. Okay. All right. And I also sent you all Linux utilities for VI editing. So I actually included a few more items within there that we did not cover that you can actually try yourself. One last thing I want to show you. So let me go into messages, VI messages, into insert mode. And remember I told you to save a file is escape:WQ and then enter. That saves it. There's actually another way that you can actually save a file. Another way to save a file is just :X. :X saves a file. There's just a quicker way instead of having to type WQ. Most people that I know just use WQ, but :X will also write and quit and save the file. That also saves the file as well. Okay, but yeah, you can go through a few of those documentations that I provided, and for the Linux utilities. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Is there any questions before we move on to the next topic? Any questions with head, tail, less, and more?
No.
Okay. Okay. And please let me know if I'm moving too fast. Okay. So now, the next topic that we're going to go through is boot management. Boot management. Okay. Just a second. Okay. Can you all see this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So boot management. Okay, so what we're going to cover within boot management are these different topics. We have single user mode, the boot process, run levels, the grub.conf file, Etsy in the tab, services, start, check config. Okay. So I provided you all a link within the email, which is going to basically show you how to put your system in single user mode. Okay, so single user mode is basically a mode that you put your system into to either change your root password or to troubleshoot your system in case it has any sort of issues. It actually takes your system offline, which then allows you to be able to maneuver your system in a more secure way. Let's say your system is running extremely slow, and you need to troubleshoot your system a little further. What you will need to do is you need to put your system into single user mode in order to be able to troubleshoot your system more efficiently. Okay, just a second. Yeah, so it's basically like a maintenance. It's like a maintenance mode. It's a maintenance feature which allows you to make changes to your system in a more secure way, instead of having to do that while your system is completely up and running. Single user mode still provides you the black command line screen, but your system is actually not booted up to the operating system. You're actually not at the operating system. You're in a maintenance mode. Okay, so I provided you all a link within I sent you all a link within to your emails. If you did not get it, please let me know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to change your root password on your system. So let's say when you get into the work field, what you're usually going to do is you're going to log in as yourself. You never log in as root. So usually once your system boots up, you log in as your own user. Your own user will be provided special permissions on the system, which will allow you to do the different functions within the system. But let's say you were provided a task to actually change the root password on your system. So I'm going to basically demonstrate first. The link that I provided you actually takes you step by step with what exactly needs to be done. So first, what you'll do is you'll actually reboot your system by typing reboot. So what we're going to do is we're going to boot our system into a maintenance mode, into single user mode, maintenance mode. So you hit enter. And while your system is booting up, you want to break the boot. So now that I'm currently here at this screen right here, these are the different kernels that you can boot your system into, but I'll talk about that later. So while your system is booting up, I'm actually going to start the process over again so I can explain to you much better. Once you reboot your system, as soon as it's booting up, you want to immediately hit the letter E. E to basically edit. E to basically edit, to basically stop the boot. So once my system comes back up, ABC 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to reboot. So type reboot. And while it's coming up, you hit the letter E quickly. You quickly hit the letter E, which will now put you in edit mode. So these these parameters are basically what the system uses. It reads these parameters before your system actually boots up. So to get into single user mode, you have to use your keyboard. Right now my cursor is here. You have to use your keyboard and actually scroll down until you see this line here where it says UTF-8. So what we're doing is we're going to boot our system up into single user mode. This is the Red Hat 7 way to boot your system into single user mode. Red Hat 6 is different. We'll definitely go through that and one of the sessions. But right now what we're doing is we're booting our system up into single user mode. So the link I sent you, you can definitely follow that link. So now what we're going to do is we're going to type in a command here. And this command is we're going to type in a line here. It's called rd.break. So rd.break. So what we're doing is we're going to boot our system up into maintenance mode. And once you type that, then you're going to hit Control. You're going to hold on to the Control key on your keyboard, and then you're going to hit the letter X on your keyboard. So once you hit the letter X, now what it's going to do is it's going to boot your system up into single user mode. So right now, you see it says, so right now this is the single user mode, maintenance mode of your system. But before you do anything, you want to mount your currently your root file system is not mounted, as in slash with all of the content that is inside of it. The file system tree, your system root is actually currently not available. So you want to first make that available before you do anything. So in order to do that, so this process that I'm taking you through is the exact same process you take every time to get your system into maintenance mode. So if you get a task to change your root password on your system, these are the exact steps that you'll follow. These steps don't change. There are different ways actually to boot your system into single user mode, but this is the quickest and most efficient way to get into single user mode. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mount our root file system, as in it's currently not available. So now we need to make it available. So the command we're going to use is mount-o remount RW for read write, and sysroot. And then you hit enter. And the command I'll follow after that is root sysroot, and then enter. So now you're currently in, you have full permission to be able to change your root password or troubleshoot your system offline. Right now you cannot connect, no one can connect into your system. So now you have the privacy that you need to make any changes to your system. So your system is currently not online. The IP address that you provided your system cannot be reached or anything of the sort. So these steps that I just took are the same exact steps that you'll take to boot your system up into single user mode. You can actually note this down in a notepad and reference it when you need to. That's actually how I have it done. even in my current role where I'm currently working, if I need to get into single user mode, the same exact link that I provided you is what I usually reference. So to change your root password, it will be PASSW, which is password, PASSW, and you hit enter. Then it says changing password for user root. So you can choose whatever password that you like to change it to. I'll just keep it the same, ABC123. You're not going to see it because it's not going to display, and you hit enter again. And it's telling me the password is shorter than 7 characters. It's a bad password, but you can make it longer if you want. You don't need to make it that long. ABC123, and you enter, and it says all authentication tokens updated successfully. So now we've successfully changed our root password. Okay, so now what you will do is, in order to reboot your system, if I type reboot right now, it's not going to allow me to reboot. It says fail to talk to the init daemon. So what you have to do is actually type exit and then reboot. So now the system is booting up. So the way it's booting up now, so any questions with single user mode? Single user mode is a maintenance mode. It's the mode that allows you to basically troubleshoot your system. It's how would I compare it to? I would compare that to
more like a maintenance mode or something.
Yeah, single user mode is maintenance mode. Yeah, it's basically maintenance mode.
So I have a question though.
Okay.
My question is, say, like you mentioned, say you're given a task to like change your root password at work. So this is the only way. You have to shut down you have to do a reboot of the server before you can do that, or is there any other route?
Okay, so I can log into my system as root, ABC123. It's not working. You can log into your system. System might have gotten locked out. Okay, but you can log into your system as root. You can actually log into your system as root, and only for testing practice. Only in this simulation that we're doing. While you're in your system as root, you can actually change that password, which I will show you in the next session for user management. But once you get into the workplace, unless you're actually provided the root password to actually log into the system as root, you're not going to be able to do that. So 9 times out of 10, you'll have to actually reboot your system and go into single user mode to be able to change your root password. But if you have the root password, if you're provided that password, but you as a system administrator, once you get into the field, you will actually be provided that root password. Sometimes you will be provided that root password, but most of the time you log in as yourself, as your own user, and then you authenticate your user to become root. And even after authenticating yourself to become root, you still won't be able to change the root password. So in order to do that,
when you say to become root, you basically just mean like an administrator of that server, but it's not like you're the super user, which is the root. And even if you were going to reboot the computer, like you indicated that should be done, it's going to be after a maintenance window is such, probably, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So I'm not sure what just happened to my system. I think the password that I gave it, I think I might have fast-fingered it. Okay, I'll take a look at that a little bit. Okay, so now what we're any questions with any other questions with single user mode? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reboot I'm going to hard reboot it, because I actually just noticed that I missed a step in the documentation, which is not allowing my system not allowing me to log in. So if you actually have the link that I provided you pulled up, you'll actually see at the step 7, after you change the root password, you have to use the command. Let me get back into single user mode and I'll show you exactly what I'm referring to. So RD break Control X. So these steps don't change. They don't change at all. Just a moment. Okay, so now we're going to mount our root file system. Mount -O, remount RW. RW is read write, sys root, and root, sys root. And now we're going to change the password. So ABC123, ABC123. Okay. So once I got to here, I actually rebooted my system. But now what you have to do is you have to use the command on step 7, which I missed, is touch auto relabel. Okay. So make sure you note these steps down. So yeah, make sure you note these steps down. So now I'll go back ahead and I'll reboot my system. So now the system is coming back up. Once this comes back up, then we'll start going through the boot process as far as all the back end stuff your system is doing while it is booting up. Wondering if I spelled that incorrectly. Okay. Okay. All right. So now I'm back in my system. So step 7 that I missed. So those steps are not going to change. Those steps all stay the same. Okay. So any questions with single user mode? Single user mode is maintenance mode. That's where you change your root password. That's a way to troubleshoot your system while your system is offline. Remember, those steps don't change. So that link that I provided you is definitely a good link to reference for booting your system into single user mode. Okay. All right. Current slide. Okay. So now we just covered the single user mode. So now the boot process. Okay. So while your system is booting up, as soon as you press the power button on your system, it goes through these six steps before it gets to your login prompt. So this sometimes can be an interview question. What is the Linux boot process? So first we start at BIOS. So as soon as you press the power button, your system is reading a few hardware components on your system. So these hardware components that it's reading, to make sure that there are no errors there, are your RAM, your CPU, your hard drive, any of the items. Let me open this here. So basically, if I go into these settings here, so these are the different hardware components within your system. So when your system once you hit the power button to actually power the system on, this is all the stuff that's being done in the back end. It's actually reading these different components. Even though this is a virtual environment, these are actually hardware components. So it's actually looking into each of these different components to make sure that there are no errors or no issues there before it can take it to the next boot process, which is your MBR, Master Boot Record. Okay, so your Master Boot Record, what it does is that it locates the operating system that it wants your system to boot up into. So once your system was booting up, let me pull that back up here. So let me power the system off, and let me show you exactly what it's doing. So once I hit the power button, it's going to take me first through the BIOS. The BIOS is going to read each of these different items here before it gets to the next boot process, which is the MBR, the Master Boot Record. So once I power this on, it's actually reading all of the hardware components. It did it actually quickly. You didn't see it, but that's actually what it did. It actually read the hardware components, all of the components that I just showed you before it got to here. This right here is basically the Master Boot Record. So it's what is the Master Boot Record? What it's going to do is actually going to read your disk. It's going to read this disk to locate the operating system. It's going to read that disk to locate your operating system. So it tells the system this is where your operating system is located. So once it locates where the operating system is located, it's not going to boot into the operating system. MBR just locates it for you. It locates the section where it reads the disk, and it tells you this is where you need to boot into your operating system, and that's where you would then get into your grub. So the next step, let me pull that up here. Okay, so now we started off at the BIOS. BIOS reads all of the hardware components. MBR tells your system where it needs to boot. It tells your system where it needs to boot. And then once you get to grub, that's where it actually then gives you the option to choose which kernel to boot your system into. Which kernel to boot your system into. So these are the different kernels that are on your system. So remember, your kernel is basically the heart of your system. It's basically the heart of your system. The default kernel is usually what is going to be highlighted once you boot your system up. So the one that is highlighted is this first one here. So there's actually only one kernel on this system. What you're seeing below here, this is actually not a kernel. This is I believe a rescue type of parameter that you can boot into for further troubleshooting on your system. But if you had multiple kernels on your system, you would see, it says Red Hat Enterprise Linux Server, and it has the version. So the version of the kernel is 3.10.0.957. That is the version of the kernel. You can have multiple kernels on your system. So let's say when you upgrade your system, when you patch your system, it will also give you the option to patch your kernel. And patch means to basically upgrade the kernel. So once you upgrade your kernel to the next version, which could possibly be 3.11, the next version, and once your system boots up, you'll actually be able to see both of them here. So at times you can actually boot into an older kernel. Let's say if you're having any issues with the new kernel that your system was just upgraded to. So this right here is your grub. This is where you select the operating system that you actually want to boot into. You understand? Okay, so now we select the kernel that we want our system to boot into, and then you hit enter, and it actually will then take you into your system. You see this line that's coming up here? If you hit your right key, the right arrow key, you will then be able to see everything that's going on in the back. So what it's doing is that it's executing different run levels. So let me pull the slide. The current slide. Okay. So when your system boots up, it reads all of the hardware components, which is the BIOS, your memory, your CPU, your disk, your hard drive, all of that. Then it gets to the next step, which is the MBR, Master Boot Record. Master Boot Record will tell your system, hey, this is where your operating system is located. This right here is where your operating system is located. And then it will take you into the grub. The grub is what gives you the option of which operating system to choose from. So your system will boot automatically into the default kernel that is in your system. that is in your system. And once you choose that, then it's taking us into our kernel. And once it's taken us into the kernel, there are a few jobs that are being run in the background, which will then bring you to your run levels. Just a second. So init, what init does is that it will tell your system to either boot into, it will tell your system to boot into the default run level that is applied on your system. And the default run level, so right here are our run levels, right? So the default run level is actually run level 3. So when your system is booting up, we'll start off at the BIOS, and then then your MBR will tell you where your operating system is located. And then from your MBR, it will take you to your grub, which will then allow you to choose the kernel. And then once you're in your kernel, once you're inside of your kernel, a init, I-N-I-T, a init tells you which run level to boot into. So these are the different run levels. So your system boots automatically into run level 3, which is a full multi-user mode. Before it gets into the login prompt, it boots into run level 3. So run level 0, let's say your system was defaultly set to run level 0. So when your system boots up, what it's automatically going to do is going to shut back down. So you boot it up, you shut it down. You don't ever set your system to run level 0. As soon as it boots up, it will shut right back down. You'll have to go into single user mode in order to change that run level for it to boot up correctly. So run level 1 is single user mode. So if you set your system automatically to run level 1, once your system boots up, it will boot directly into single user mode. And single user mode is maintenance mode. That's the mode that allowed us to change our root password. And you have run level 2, basic multi-user mode. So basic multi-user mode is somewhat like single user mode, but it actually gives you some network parameters while you're inside of single user mode. And then run level 3 is full multi-user mode. Run level 3, when your system boots into run level 3, is the default user mode. It takes you directly to your operating system. Run level 4 is unused. You don't ever touch run level 4. So run level 5 is multi-user mode with graphical user interface. So in order to use run level 5, when your system boots up, it will actually look like a regular desktop. It will actually look like a regular desktop. There's a graphical user interface. You'll actually be able to use your mouse and to click on start. You'll actually see how Linux looks like with an actual interface. And run level 6, but there are actually some components within your system that you'll need to install first before you can boot your system into run level 5. If you set your system up as default to run level 5 to boot into, it's not going to boot into the graphical user interface unless you've installed some other parameters around your system, some packages that you need to install for your system to be able to boot to using run level 5. And run level 6 is reboot. So if you set your system to be defaultly set to run level 6, what it's going to do is that as soon as you boot your system up, it's just going to continue rebooting it. And the only way to change it is to go into single user mode and make those changes. So let's hop into our system. So let me actually pull up this slide once again. Okay. So BIOS. So BIOS is your hardware. All of your hardware components on your system, your memory, CPU, your disk, your hardware, your NIC card, all of that it reads first before your system can get into the master boot record. Master boot record is what it tells you where your operating system is located. And then you get into your grub. Your grub allows you to select the kernel, the operating system that you can boot into. And then once you select your kernel here, then it will take you into init. Init will give you the option. Init tells your system which run level do I need to boot the system into. So you make all your changes inside of init. Init executes the run level programs. So your default run level is run level 3. So now, do we have any questions? Hope we're all following along. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to log into my system. Okay. So I'm going to show you where your default kernel is located, where the system knows to basically boot your system, what kernel to boot your system into automatically. Grub. Okay. So the location of where your system boots up automatically is located in etc defaults grub. If you had more than one kernel running on your system, more than one operating system or so to choose from, more than one kernel to choose from while your system is booting up, you can actually select that kernel for your system to boot up. But let's say you always wanted to boot up into that particular kernel. You'll basically come to this file here and make your change. But since we only have one kernel on this system, what I'll do is I'll install another kernel on this system, and I'll show you all how to set your system to boot into that particular kernel by default. So you'll come into this file and you actually add a parameter which will look like default grub. That parameter is not in here because your system automatically boots up to the kernel that it's updated to. So what it will look like, it will be grub underscore default equals. So whichever line that your kernel is on, let's say the kernel that you're trying to boot up into is the third kernel that's listed once you are booting up your system, you just put number 3 and it will automatically boot up to that third kernel each time your system boots up. So I'll go ahead and I'll actually delete this line by using dd to delete. So that is your default, that is the default location of where you would set the default, whichever kernel you want to boot into, that is where you would make that change. And the run level. So your system automatically boots into run level 3. And that is located in etc init tab. etc init tab. Just a second. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, give me about 2 minutes. I need to. Actually, let's take a 5 minute break. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Had some issue on my end, but all is well. All right. Okay, so where did we just leave off? Let me share out my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me know when you can see my screen. You can see my screen. Share. Okay, let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my command line?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. All right. So we were discussing. Okay. So init tab. All right. So I'm going to send you all some documentation that I put together for getting your system to select which run level to basically boot into. Okay. So the command for setting, so remember, so the default run level is run level 3. Run level 3 is currently what your system automatically boots into as run level 3. So let's say you wanted to set your system so that it will automatically be set to, let's say, run level 0, 1, 2, 3. Remember 4 is unused, or 5 or 6. Okay, so the command that you will use is systemctl, right? Set default followed by the run level. So run level, let's say we want to do run level 1. Run level 1 is single user mode. So run level 1 is single user mode. So we run level 1 dot target. So what we're doing is we're going to set the default run level to be run level 1. Okay. So now once I hit enter, what is done is that it's removed a symlink, basically a parameter that is pointing to the default run level, which is run level 3, and it's created a new symlink which is now pointing to the new run level, which is run level 1. So we've set our system now to be default to run on run level 1. So what that's going to do is that once we reboot our system, it's going to boot the system into single user mode. It's going to boot the system into single user mode. So single user mode is maintenance mode. So we've set our default run level to boot into single user mode. So now I'm going to execute reboot on my right now. So now it's going through the BIOS. Now it's getting into the MBR, then grub, and then the kernel, and then it's going to read init. Init is going to tell us which run level to boot the system into. Okay. So right now it says, welcome to emergency mode. Emergency mode is maintenance mode. So it's asking us to give the system the root password for maintenance. So right now we want to get into maintenance mode. So you'll give your system your root password that you provided. So it's ABC123, and then you hit enter. So now it's going to look like a regular command line, but you're actually not in your operating system. You're not in your actual, you're not actually online. You're currently in maintenance mode. So always remember that once you get into maintenance mode, you always need to mount your root file system. So that's mount -o remount read write sys root, and followed by, okay, well, actually we'll not need to do that because it actually booted us straight into our root file system in maintenance mode. Okay, so that process is what you use to boot your system, to select the run level. So our system basically went through, let me pull this line up again. It went through all of these items. So the boot process, it went through the BIOS, then it went into the MBR, then to the grub, and then to the kernel. And then init basically told the system which run level to boot the system into. So we changed from default 3 to basically default 1. And once we set it to run level 1, it booted us directly into maintenance mode. So if I reboot my system again, it's going to continue to boot me into single user mode until I change that. Any questions? Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my system back to run level 3 so that it will boot up back into the normal default run level, which is run level 3. So that's systemctl set default run level 3 this time dot target. Understand? So we've now set the default run level back to run level 3. So if you wanted to change it to run level 5 or 6, you just change that here. Or to run level 0 or 1, you just change that here. So now what it's going to do is, it's going to remove the parameter that was tied to the old run level, which was run level 2, and is going to create a new parameter and point it to the new run level. And that's basically what it's doing. So remove the old symlink and it's creating the new symlink. So now I'm going to reboot the system. So now it's going through the boot process. And once you see that arrow at the bottom that starts to load, you can actually hit your right arrow key and see all of the different parameters that it's booting. That's loading in the background. That's also a way for you to troubleshoot your system. So now it's booted our system back to run level 3. Run level 3 is the default run level on our system, and we are now back to be able to log into our system with no issue. So I know I just covered a lot just now. I believe I sent you all some documentation on the boot process, but what I'll also do is I'll send you the commands that you will use to boot your system into the proper run level. Any questions? Okay, so we've gone over. We've covered a good amount of items today. So we've displayed contents of a file. We've searched through the contents of a file. We've understood the command line editor VI. We've used less as well as more, mooring a file, and to tail a file, as well as the, how to get to the top of a file using head. We now know how to boot our systems into single user mode. We understand the run levels. We know the default location where our kernel is located, just in case we want to boot our systems into a new kernel. And we now know how to boot our systems into the default run level. And we've also gone over the boot process. So I know a lot was covered today. I'll definitely send out this video. But any questions so far?
I didn't have a question, but I think I got a little lost at the boot management topic. But I think I'll just have to read up and follow through with the video you see now.
Okay. So the boot, this boot process here.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. I feel like there's more to know about it. Like I was following through, but you're the expert.
Okay.
I think there's more to read on it personally.
Okay. Okay. So I'll explain this a little slower. So okay. So when your system boots up, once you hit the power button, as soon as you hit the power button, it starts with your BIOS. Your BIOS is all of the hardware components on your VM. All of your hardware components, like your memory, your CPU, your let me actually just pull it up here. Okay, so these are all of the hardware components on your VM. Your memory, your processor, which is your CPU, your hard drive, your disk, your network adapter, and all of these other components that are here as well. Anything that's hardware related, that's on your VM, that's what is going to be read first. That is what the system is going to pick up first before it touches anything else. It's going to read all of the hardware components first to make sure that everything is tying together properly before it gets to the next boot process, which is your MBR, your master boots record. So once the BIOS is complete, it goes to the next run level, which is your MBR. Your MBR tells your system, it basically tells your VM, hey, this is where the OS is located. This is where the operating system is located. This is where we need to boot up from to actually get our system all the way up. This location is where our kernel is located. Operating system and kernel is basically the same. So the MBR is telling your system, hey, this is where we need to boot it up from. And then your grub is where it actually selects the kernel that it wants to boot into once it gets to the grub. So let me power this off. Okay, so as soon as I hit power, it's going to read all of my hardware components. So now it's reading all the hardware components, does that extremely quickly. Oops, let me start that over. 1, 2, quick. Power off, so power on. So now it's reading all the hardware components. Okay, so now it's reading all the hardware components. So once it has read all of the hardware components, in order to get to this screen here, your master boot record is actually reading your disk and is telling the system, hey, this is where we need to be. This is the next location where we need to be. That's MBR, that's master boot record. So now that we know where we need to boot the system up from, now we go to the next boot process, which is grub. Grub is actually going to then select the default kernel, to boot into. So the one that's highlighted is the one that is default on your system. So it's the default kernel. So now that grub has told us which one is the default, it's going to boot into that kernel. So once it boots into it, once I hit enter, it's going to boot into that kernel, right? And then once it boots into the kernel, it's going to read all the different parameters within the kernel, and then it's going to let me pull up the slide. So once it gets to the grub, the section of the grub, and it tells the system, hey, this is the kernel that we need to boot into. And once it boots into the kernel, and it starts to go through all of the components of the kernel, then init is going to tell the system which run level that we need to boot into. So the run levels are, the default run level is run level 3. Run level 3, so these are the run levels. So default run level is run level 3. Run level 3 is what allows you to get to your operating system. It puts your system online and allows you to execute any commands that you need to. So you can actually, and then what we did was we went into the default grub file, and I showed you where you can actually set the default kernel that you want your system to boot into, the default kernel that you want your system to boot into. You remember that file, etc default grub? So that file is where you would set the default kernel. If you have more than one kernel on your system, you can set which one you want your system to boot into. And then once it gets the grub, then it'll get to the kernel that you want your system to boot into, and then into init, which will then tell your system which run level. The default run level is run level 3. Let's say you're on your system and you want your system to boot into run level 3 without having to actually go into single user mode. Instead of having to reboot your system and then go through the process of getting into single user mode, while you're on your system as root, you can set the default run level to run level 1, and then once you reboot your system, it'll place you right into maintenance mode. Do you understand? So now once I hit enter, now it's reading the kernel, all of the parameters around the kernel, and then init is going to tell the system what's run level to boot into. So that's actually all that is doing in the background, is applying all of the kernel parameters and any of the services or so that are getting started on the system. And then init is going to tell the system, hey, okay, we're going to boot this system into run level 3. And that's when you get to your login prompt. Does that make more sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so basically, when you're in an interview, they're going to ask you. They may ask you at times, what is the boot process? You know, what is the boot process? They may ask you, what is the boot process? And it's good to know. It's always good to know the boot process, to know exactly how your system is booting up. So you can know sometimes, okay, my system is booting up, but it hasn't even gotten to the login prompt. So maybe there are some other parameters here where it has failed. You understand? So an interview question could be, what is a boot process? What is a Linux boot process? And you explain to them, it starts off with the BIOS, all of your hardware, and then the NVR, it tells the system the kernel, where your kernel is located, and then your grub will choose the correct kernel, and the kernel will then apply all of the parameters, and then a init will tell which run level to boot into. So that's an interview question. And another interview question is like, what are your run levels? So you have 0 through 6. 0 is halt, which means to shut down your system. You have single user mode and multi-user mode, full multi-user mode. 4 is unused, and unused as in you can't boot into 4, so it just skips over it. And then you have 5 and you have 6. But the default run level is run level 3. So if you set your system to run level 6, by default, it will just continue to reboot your system until you change it in single user mode.